my book, Sex, No Drugs, and Rock and Roll, Memoirs of a Music Junkie, is in two parts. Part one is the 50s and 60s, primarily the 60s, and part two is the 70s. Tell me, let's start with you in the 60s.
Okay.
What were you doing in the 60s?
60s, I was working for an office manufacturing company as a salesperson after college. Got bored out of my mind. I hung around the village, and all of a sudden I go into all these clubs, the bitter end, it was called the Cock and Bull then, and see these amazing acts rehearsing, Peter, Paul, and Mary, or, you know.
It was called what before it was called?
Cock and Bull.
Cock and Bull. Now, was Colby involved then?
Oh, no, Paul, way later, this is way before. This
Okay.
is when Fred Weintraub owned it, with Manny Roth, who also owned the Cafe Wa.
Okay.
They were partners.
Okay.
Then Manny got tired of the club. He was, and Fred bought it from him, and he renamed it the Bitter End, mainly because it was like the last stop on Bleecker Street before you got to the Bowery, which was the Bitter End.
right.
It was actually not the last stop. The last stop was a club called the Dugout. Well, that's like an old wine, old place,
Right.
So, I gave up my job because I met a girl. Always, how it's always
Right.
a story,
Right.
Good planning, right? And she invited me down to the Bitter End, and I bumped into her on the street one night, and she said, "Come on in, we need an MC." I said, "Great, I'll take it." It ended up they needed a doorman, so I said, "Great, I'll take it." I took it, and from that point on, I just got to know a lot of the acts, people like John Denver and Chad Mitchell and Mike Settle and Kenny Rogers. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Right.
Then I got to become a manager of a number of acts. I discovered,
And now, when did Colby come in?
In '68, I left the Bitter End. I was managing Angela Harris and Jeff Walker. So he might have been there on '68.
I remember.
Right,
66.
you're right.
Now, did they have hootenanny nights back then?
Of course, every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Because I think it was Monday and Tuesday were the hootenanny nights that I remember
Tuesday.
going around with my guitar.
So and then I discovered Barry Manilow and Emmylou Harris and Jerry Jeff Walker became their manager. Left the Bitter End. Paul. There was another guy before Paul.
Falco.
Yeah, came in for a while. Then Paul came in. Then I went back and joined Fred Weintraub's management company. It was called Fredana Management. And
That was the Mercer Arts Center
Yeah.
there at the time?
yeah, it was there already. It maybe had collapsed already by that time. But yeah, it was there. It was a great spot.
My memories of the village at that time was there was kids everywhere with
No,
guitars going
crazy.
from place to place. Any stories, anything you remember that specifically stands out in your mind a little
Yeah,
bit?
but I want to tell you the story. So when I was the doorman at the Bitter End, and once in a while we'd have an opening. We needed an opening act, right?
Right.
So I would run over to the clubs and see who was available. Like I would go over to Gertie's Folk City, and Jose Feliciano would be there. I'd follow him to the men's room. He and his dog and me, both peeing at the unit. And I said, "Jose, you want to open a set for the Bitter End? I can pay you $10." And he said, "Yeah." So he'd follow me over with his wife Hilda and the dog, or I'd get Richie Havens, or I should have even a couple of guys are famous actors right now.
Right.
I'd see him walking the streets and, "Hey, come on, let's come and do an opening set."
Right.
Because we always had three acts. There was a folk singer, a comedian, and then the main act.
Right.
So every once in a while, the opening act would be missing, right? So, and that's how it segued into the coffee house circuit. Which
Now tell me about the coffee house circuit.
the coffee house circuit was a joint venture with Fred Weintraub and the Bitter End, and the NAC, which was the National NEC, which was
NEC.
National Entertainment Council Conference.
Yeah, that was for the colleges, right?
Yes, yeah. It was big,
Yeah.
So we'd have we'd have a student activities director, let's say at RPI in Troy, New York, and she would be responsible for 6 or 7 of the schools in New York, like the SUNY schools, right? We'd hire somebody like Harry Chapin or Jim Croce or whatever to do. This is how it would work. First, I had to do an audition for us, right? And we'd have auditions once a year,
Right.
And we invite all the buyers, all the school people in. So they would go to one school for 3 days, and they would get $100 for the first man, and every additional man in the group an additional $75, plus room and board, plus gas allotment, which was figured on where the next school was. So they'd be 3 days. They'd stay in the dormitory with the kids. They'd eat with the kids. The Wednesday they would go to the drive to the next school, which might be, let's say, from RPI to SUNY Albany or whatever. Do 3 more days, and they could work for maybe 50 weeks of the year. I mean, it's amazing for these guys because they would make a living, and not a bad living, right? If you make a $300 a week per person or something like that.
Now, I remember the NEC used to have these big conventions for all the buyers.
Right.
Did that happen after the coffee house?
That probably happened at the same time. We would go down to Washington, D.C., and would have we would be part of their conference as well. But that was mostly to showcase our acts down there in Washington, in D.C. They seemed to, well, they made a grab for the company after, we weren't making any money. We were doing a great service for the schools. We were doing a great service for the artists. It was costing us a fortune. We charged every school a fee to join, and then we ran the company, and all the expenses are,
Right.
I had like 2 people working, plus myself. So when we decided we wanted to charge the artists a small commission, the NEC got all up in arms, and they said, well, we can do it ourselves. And they took it over, and it lasted a year.
And that was the end of it.
Yeah, of course,
Where'd you go from there?